Hello and welcome back. This is Rachel from the Shades of Orange. Today I want to recommend some of my favorite dark graphic novels. Now these fall under several genres including horror, fantasy, and thrillers. But for whatever reason, each of these books has some really dark elements. So if you have never read a graphic novel before but enjoy the novels that I normally read, these are some great places to start. And even if you do read a lot of graphic novels, I'm going to try to include some underhyped ones, so hopefully you'll find something new to add to your own TBR. Let's get started. First, I want to recommend The Cape by Joe Hill. And this is about a man who, when he was a child, was playing superheroes with his brother. He went into a tree, tried to fly, and fell out and hurt himself quite badly. Now in the present day, he's now an adult, and the injury that he got falling out of that tree still affects him today. He has trouble holding down a job, and it's really affecting his own relationship with his girlfriend. He's quite depressed and is just in a really dark place. And then he discovers that his childhood blanket, the one that he used to play superheroes with, actually has some magical abilities, and the story really takes off from there. This is a book that I heard nothing about before going into, and I really think it's best going in without reading too much of the synopsis because it gives away more than I would have liked to know. But this book is one that did not follow the expected tropes of the genre. I thought I knew where it was going to go, and it went somewhere completely different. And this is a book that all I want to say is it's very dark, very depressing. You need to be in the right mood to want to read a book like this because it's quite different than the typical superhero book, but I just loved it. I thought it packed a punch, and it was just a really powerful, quick story, so I definitely recommend that one. It is a standalone, so if you're looking for a shorter book that will just be contained all in one volume, that's a great one to pick up. Next, I want to recommend one of my all-time favorite mangas. I also love the anime, and that is Death Note. This involves a young Japanese student who finds a notebook that was dropped on the ground by a god. He quickly learns that when you write the name of a person in this notebook, they die. And then he decides to use this for his own selfish reasons. He decides to choose who deserves to live or die, and chaos really ensues. At the same time, there is a group of police detectives that are trying to track down the identity of this mysterious killer, and this police force is led by a mysterious man named L. And the story is really about the cat and mouse adventures of trying to track down the identity of this Japanese student. So it goes back and forth between his perspective and the perspective of the detectives. It's so intelligent, it's so well written. While I call it a game of cat and mouse, it's really a quiet book. It doesn't actually have a lot of action. Instead, it's very much about the two sides plotting and trying to outmaneuver each other, and they're trying to close in on each other and take out the other person before the other person discovers their identity. I just love it. I just think it's one of the most well-written manga out there, and it was just fantastic. In terms of the artwork, it's all done in black and white. In this case, it worked very well because the subject matter is so dark, and that stark contrast just worked fabulous. So I definitely recommend that one. Next, I want to recommend Norman by Silas, and this is about an 8-year-old boy with some murderous tendencies. The story starts with one of his classmates mysteriously disappearing from school, and the question is whether or not that student has just disappeared or whether he's been murdered. There are some aspects of mystery to this book, but it's more so just going along for the ride and watching a crazy story unfold. The artwork in this book is very cartoony. It looks super cute and it's all done in color. It's very adorable, but don't let that deceive you. The actual content of this book is really dark, really disturbing. There's a lot of adult subject matter, some very morbid humor thrown in there, and a lot of the book involves the classroom, the teacher who is crazy inappropriate. And if that sounds like a lot of fun, it's definitely one to pick up. I didn't think it was quite perfect. I did have some issues with the narrative. Could have been a little bit better edited, but all that being said, I still give props to creepy, mentally disturbed children, and I just thought this book was a blast, and I just really liked it as a concept, so I definitely recommend it if you're looking for that weird, out there, creepy book with some creepy children. Next, I want to recommend a book called The Unknown by Waid, and this is a book that is a bit of a mystery with potential elements of paranormal fantasy. And this involves a female private investigator who is a really strong kick-butt character who is going around solving mysteries. She is very well known for being highly intelligent, and her sidekick go around solving crimes. But the book is focused on a particular case that she is trying to solve, that she has personally taken on, and that is to find what happens after people die. The reason she's doing this is she has been diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor, and at this point she knows that this tumor is causing her to hallucinate. And that setup is fantastic because what it creates is an unreliable narrator. So when you're reading this book, you do not know what is happening in her head and what is actually going on. And that's where I say potentially the element of paranormal, because I don't want to tell you what is or is not real in this book. It's very creepy, very eerie, very dark, and it's just very mysterious. If you like not quite knowing what's going on in a book, it is a perfect one to pick up. I just thought it was really engrossing, very compelling, and a very fast page turner. So definitely recommend that one. In terms of the artwork, it is done in color, focusing more on those darker, deeper colors like purples and reds that really give the book the more serious tone that matches the plot very well. So I did enjoy that one quite a bit. Finally, I want to recommend Lock and Key by Joe Hill, which is his fantasy/horror book all about a group of children who go to move into their family estate after their father is brutally murdered. The story follows each of these three siblings, and they discover keys into this home, and these keys go into doors that have some magical properties. I really don't want to say too much of the plot. Let you discover it for yourself. Instead, I'll talk more about the book as a whole, that it is very creepy. There are some very gory elements to this book. You have to be comfortable with some gore on the page. But at the same time, it's actually got some really endearing emotional aspects to it because it is a book about a family as well. The youngest child, the Bode, is crazy adorable, and this book really does balance a good character story with some very creepy plot details. I loved the creativity of it. I think Joe Hill is really good at blending fantasy with horror. And in terms of the artwork, as I mentioned, there definitely is some gore in the pictures, but it's all done in color. It really pops on the page and I think matches the story fantastic. So those are 5 of my favorite graphic novels with darker themes. I would love to know if you're interested in picking up any of the books I mentioned. As well, feel free to recommend your favorites down below. I'm always looking for a good creepy story, and I really enjoy graphic novels, so I love the format. Again, thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.